Joel Ventresca. Joel Ventresca is running for the governor of California. Go ahead and give him a call at 415-941-7945. He will answer your questions if you're a serious person. He lives in San Francisco. He's 69 years of age. He's running for governor. He believes in a ton of, he's a super progressive with experience. He's a Bernie crack with experience. He's 69 years of age. He says he's fought corruption in government, so he's got some government experience. And he's paying $4,200 a month to live in San Francisco, and he likes avocados. So, Joel Ventresca, here's some audio of Joel Ventresca about the war on drugs.
I mean, for example, what I want to see is I want a politician, which I would do, I want a politician who's going to end the war on drugs.
Yeah.
And stop it. Okay, because 40% of the people in our jails and prisons are because of possession or using or selling small quantities of illegal drugs. That's 40%. Every person in the state prison costs $140,000 to do that. So, and often the possession, usage, or selling small quantities of illegal drugs, there's no violence involved. It's like a transaction where no one is threatening violence or using violence or anything like that. So if I became the next governor, I would end the war on drugs. Newsom has continued the war on drugs.
And he promised to end it. So, yeah, this is true when it comes to the war on drugs. Gavin Newsom has promised to end it. Larry Elder is against it. So that's how right-wing the rest of the country is, right? The Republicans in Alabama, they're opposed to, Larry Elder. What, you're opposed to the war on drugs? So the Republicans in Alabama love the war on drugs, but the Republicans in California, they are opposed to the war on drugs. So Larry Elder, he's like, you know what? I'm opposed to the war on drugs, so is Gavin Newsom. So in a way, this is not a brave issue whatsoever. All the main motherfuckers are against the war on drugs. Really, the question is, in what way are you against the war on drugs? And then you can go down, the specifics and
he promised, and actually Larry Elder, that seems to be an issue. That's even the just legalize every 21 and older adults. Every 3 years, you have to go something like for the DMV, like a test. Go to a workshop where you know the risks and the dangers of certain drugs, because there is danger of overdose of some of them.
Well, some drugs, just like crocodile. You ever heard of crocodile or devil's breath? He goes on and explains, more nuanced his war on drugs. He says that he legalizes all war on drugs, so all the drugs are going to be legalized, and he's just going to have a million programs and a million laws that's going to, crack down on every fucking thing else. So, essentially, I'm like, I didn't even hear all the regulations. He had 4 regulations that he would add. Okay, we're going to legalize all drugs, but we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to do this, too. So let's just run down a couple of his issues. So he is in favor of net neutrality. He believes that we should have equal access to the Internet, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're working class or whether you're a plutocrat or an oligarch. You should not have slow Internet. So Joel Ventresca, California, is going to get you fast Internet. So he's in favor of net neutrality, equal access for fast Internet for all. He's in favor of high-speed rail, so fast Internet, right? This Joel Ventresca should just be, Fast Car Jones, Fast Lane Jones, just high-speed rail, high-speed Internet, high-speed instant runoff voting, high-speed school choice. No, he's opposed to school choice, but he does have a Finland model for education, which is interesting. Check out Finland's model for education. They're one of the best, educated nations in the goddamn world. Finland, a couple things that I know, they pay their teachers $100,000 fucking dollars. They only have 3 or 4 days of school. There's no homework or very little homework. And then he says there's no private schools, which is interesting. So he's very much opposed to school choice, and that's, the private industry, they want to bleed public school. And then, so he, I want freedom and democracy. I don't know if I get freedom and democracy with the Finland model, but I get a better education system with the Finland model. So I like that he's, in favor of the Finland model. I like that he's for universal health care. He's for universal college. He says from cradle to the grave, you get to get as much education and as much health care as you possibly want from the cradle to the grave. That's fantastic. I mean, to care about your people's health and their, minds, mind, body, health, right? That's mind, body, health, spirit. That's the only thing that the education, healthcare, and really spiritual stuff is shit you got to figure out. Just nature. So just make sure they have parks and take care of, the wind or the air and the water. Clean water, clean air acts. I think those are some good things too. He's not really into a jobs program. He's not really into a constitutional convention. So with the Joel Ventresca, he's not going to have, a sweeping constitutional convention when he changes all the rules to the game. And he's also not, he's going to increase jobs, but he's not going to have a specific jobs program. So he will increase jobs through health care, right? Universal health care, universal education from the cradle to the grave. That opens up a lot of opportunities. That's, administrators, that's teachers, that's principals, that's nurses, that's doctors, that's, x-ray, people, whatever. So he believes in universal basic income to do a pilot program. He wants to see how it would, and I said, what, just start out with 100 to 1,000 people? And he said, I'd like to try a little bit bigger than that. And so that's interesting because a lot of times UBI would be expensive as hell, just like universal health care would be expensive as hell too. And so universal basic income, he's for a pilot program. So he wants to do universal basic income for, a couple Californians to see if it worked. And of course it would work. You're putting the power into the pockets of, the American, the Californian person themselves. You're putting the power straight into the pocket of the Californian. I would be okay with cutting all social services. Just put, a big fat stack in my fucking pocket. Give me $100,000. I'll figure out my own health care and education with $100,000 fucking dollars. Yeah, get universal basic income. That's also how capitalism saves itself. Capitalism, if it ever gets smart enough to institute universal basic income, which not only does it, free everybody up to do whatever the fuck they want to do as far as their dreams can, but it gets rid of poverty. It gets rid of homelessness. What'd you do with your $20,000 check? Everybody gets $20,000, $100,000, what the fuck ever. What'd you do with your check? With that amount of money, you can invest it, you can put it, there's a lot of fucking things. So, universal basic income pilot program, I'm glad he's doing that. When it comes to releasing the otters, now this is interesting. I've been going on and on about talking about how Angeline, the old Hollywood billboard icon, she was in a Jim Carrey movie in the 80s before anybody knew who the hell Jim Carrey even was. But release the otters. He said he never heard of that in San Francisco, so he's against it. And, he might look into it or whatever, but he kind of doesn't, he don't think that Angeline really knows what she's talking about. I don't know if Angeline really knows what she's talking about. So that clip is at 26 minutes. But first, actually, let's listen to him. I already got it keyed up here to when he's talking about Gavin Newsom. So here is Joel Ventresca talking about Gavin Newsom.
He believes he's God, and no one can replace him, so he's urging people to vote against the recall, and he's urging people not to vote on the second question at all. And it's really odd that a Democrat would be suppressing the vote on question 2.
Yeah, that's my thing, is when I'm looking at this, just on a political... Goodness gracious, that is so much louder than the phone call. It's startling, is what it is. It's startling. But everybody said Gavin Newsom thinks he's God. He thinks he's untouchable. So he is using the election really as a bully pulpit, saying, look at these stupid Republicans. They're going to put Larry Elder and the Republicans. They're coming after me because they're coming after you. You have to vote no on the recall. You have to vote no. What happens if half the people of California vote yes? Well, then fuck you guys. You deserve Larry Elder. You'd rather give the state to Larry Elder? It's like the pilot, Gavin Newsom, right? You're going to vote, yes, or if you vote no, but the state votes yes, but you didn't vote question 2, that would be like Gavin Newsom just got thrown out of the plane, right? You're in an airplane, and the state of California just recalled your governor, so they just took Gavin Newsom and they threw him out of the plane. but you're just so pissed off about the process and the way they went about throwing Gavin Newsom out of the plane. You're just so mad about the recall process and how they did it, and you're just like, you know what, I will vote no, and then I'll vote yes, and then who's going to replace him? So if the recall goes through, did you pick a replacement pilot? Did you vote for question 2? Gavin Newsom and the Democrats of California are not telling anybody to vote for question 2. If they just said anybody, God, they could just say vote for John Robert Drake. Just pick a long shot candidate, right? If it happens, just as a backup precaution, you go ahead and vote for John Robert Blake, Blake. I did the thing. Drake, or whoever, right? All right, so we're going to now go to release the otters. Should California release the otters to save the coastlines of California? 26 minutes into the first interview.
Not have a progressive agenda. Then that means the Democrats didn't even try. The Democrats didn't even try, right? If you didn't have a progressive agenda, you're going to say that, well, look at the progressive agenda, we threw it out. You didn't even try a progressive agenda. So let's actually get somebody in there that is promising a progressive agenda and then try it. That's my sort of perspective.
Well, Newsom is not a progressive or a liberal Democrat. As I said, he's a corporate establishment, insider Democrat.
And I believe you. I believe you.
And corrupt.
So release the otters. Yes or no?
Okay, now the first question, on that one by me again.
Release the otters. There's one plank for one of your opponents' platforms is to save the coastlines of California. They want to release the otters. Apparently, somehow the otters protect the coastlines.
Okay, well, I'm a former city and county of San Francisco environmental commissioner, and I've never heard of such a thing. I do try to stay up to date on.
There's Angeline,
California. Who is proposing that?
Angeline.
Yeah,
the billboard icon.
A kind response would be, well, I might study that if I got to the governor's office. Maybe not so kind is it might be she doesn't know what she's talking about.
She might not know what she's talking about. That's I guess I should look into. Does releasing the otters, does that help the coastlines? We will answer that question in a video after this. But we have Joel Ventresca. We're talking about Joel Ventresca. We're talking about him. We're having a good time, right? So you have, he's one of 9 Democrats. He seems to be a super-duper progressive, which I like, and he's got experience. He's talking about city council or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but you could pass a bill. You could sign your name. I don't know. I feel like government would be easy. It's just you got to, have the right policies. You got to give a shit, and you got to have the right policies, and then, pursue the policies when you get into office. He wants to ban lobbyists. He wants to ban all private money in every election, federal, state, and local. He is against school choice. He's pro-net neutrality. He's pro-high-speed rail. He's pro-instant runoff voting. He believes in the Finland model for education. He's in favor of universal health care, including pharmaceuticals. He also believes in universal education. So universal health care, universal education from the cradle to the grave. That sounds pretty fucking sweet. He's also opposed to crime, has a common sense immigration policy, so you can't throw, any of that at him. He also has a small business program. He wants to increase minimum wage to $16 minimum wage. Right now, in California, minimum wage is $14. So he wants to raise minimum wage to $16, and what he wants to do for small businesses, you're like, how does that help small businesses? It makes it more expensive. Well, he says how he is going to help small businesses, he's going to cover that $3 gap. So for the small businesses, he's going to go ahead and the government is just going to give $3 to the small business so they can pay their employees a livable wage. And he's also going to cut health care costs, right? Universal health care. They don't have to worry about the health care. He's also going to reduce taxes and fees. So he's got a small business program. He's, anti-crime, has a common sense immigration policy. And he has a shit ton of progressive, universal health care, universal education. He wants a pilot program for the universal basic income. He probably would release the otters if he saw evidence that it actually does protect the coastlines, but he never heard of it, so he isn't going to do, ideas he's never heard of. He's going to ban lobbyists. Apparently no government officials can talk to lobbyists, and then he's going to ban all private money in all elections, local, state, and federal. He's going to end the war on drugs. He's going to end the war on drugs. So the pharmaceuticals, he's going to institute universal health care, pass out, pharmaceuticals to everybody and anybody who wants it, legalize anything and everything, right? Just flood the streets with crack and heroin. Gavin Newsom and Larry Elder. Larry Elder, they're all opposed to the war on drugs. So in what sense? What does that mean? That's good. Less police brutality, less racism, and frankly, when did we as Americans lose the right to our own fucking bodies? This is my fucking body, my choice. Fuck you, Nixon. So, yeah, drugs are bad, okay, but, that's for us to figure out. And, let's see, let's see, high-speed rail. He talked about the high-speed rail here coming up in a short, California Minute. So here is Joel Ventresca. Good old Joel Ventresca talking about high-speed rail. Do you think he's for it or against it?
One of the things I want to do is reinvent California into the first zero-carbon emission state in the nation. One of the ways to do that, it's essential, is that we have to get people out of airplane seats, because there's a lot of carbon emissions, and we don't know how to reduce those yet. But we have to get people out of airplane seats, and we have to get them on the high-speed train seats.
Nice.
Between the major cities in the state of California. And in light of the fact that a lot of people are facing an hour or more commute, people can get on the train, work on their laptop, and, move between the major cities and still do commerce efficiently. But they don't need to get on airplanes and, dump all that carbon emissions into the atmosphere, driving global warming.
So there you go. He's in favor of high-speed rail. He wants to end the war on drugs. He thinks Gavin Newsom thinks that he's God. He's in favor of public-financed elections. So is Dan Kapelovitz. And he's also against crime. He's against crime. Like I said, he has a common-sense immigration policy. He's against crime. So when it comes to the New York City, when it comes to being against crime, he's against all major violent crimes, all major, big crimes he's going to crack down on, but specifically, he's going to protect the women and the girls. So I like that. Also, he's going to crack down on the rich and the powerful who do environmental damage. So he's going to go after the criminal motherfuckers. What, you're going to go around hurting people? Essentially, that's his whole thing with the war on drugs is you get to do whatever you want with your own body. But what you cannot do is go hurt other people. So the war on drugs is kind of a victimless crime, right? So you're hurting yourself, but you're allowed to hurt yourself. So, yeah, he's, victimless crimes are victimless crimes, even crimes. He's going to crack down on the crimes where one person is hurting another person, which is the whole point of law. If there's not a victim, I don't think there's a crime. If there's no victim. So he's one of 9 Democrats. He's, he's 69. He's experienced. He's super progressive. Do we have anything else? He talks about something here in 29 minutes in.
Workers and professionals, and it's an essential part of our economy that we get people out of airplane seats and we get them on the high-speed train. So I'm definitely in support of it. I will speed it up if I become the governor.
That'd be cool. I wonder how fast do you think you could get from the top of California to the bottom of California using high-speed trains? In an hour? Do you think you could make it in an hour?
I think it's probably between an hour and an hour and a half.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be incredible if you could actually have a high-speed train from the top of California to the bottom of California in an hour? In an hour? You wouldn't need any, planes, at least for in the state of California. Last thing I'm going to mention, this is a bit of a criticism. I've had some small criticisms of him. I'm not a slam dunk, but he's shockingly, I've never talked to anybody that's older than 60 that, has this amount of progressive ideas. His homelessness plan is not housing first. So David Moore's homeless plan and Angel Lynn's homeless plan is better. He wants to, get them into shelters. And I can understand, that sort of gut reaction that, okay, build a house, get them into a house immediately? I don't know. They need bathrooms. They need 3 hots and a cot. They need, shelter. They need, they need medical attention. And so they need a nice central location where we give them all these services. I disagree. I think housing first, the Finland model for homelessness is the direction that we should go. He believes in the Finland model for education, but not the Finland model for homelessness. There's 160,000 homeless people in California, and making them jump through 20 different hoops and making them climb 10 different rungs up a ladder, it hasn't worked so far. I don't think it's ever going to work. And so he's opposed to housing first. So Joel Ventresca, super duper progressive, friendly. He talked to me. I'm in Colorado, and so that means he'll talk to you. There's one more clip here I guess we can listen to where he talks about how Gavin Newsom stood with the landlords. Gavin Newsom stood with the landlords. Most of the time, we do need some kind of balance, but I'm on the side of the tenant over the landlord. Landlords are just notorious assholes using their buildings and capital to profit off of, people, and people got to live. Housing is a right, and here you got these landlords that are just exploiting people for something that, they essentially have a right to have.
Well, that would just be fun just to do.
By the time you go to the airport and you stand in line and you get on the plane.
Oops, I just hit the space. I didn't click on the thing. 2150. So we're going to go to 2122. Let's see, 2149. Here we go. All right.
Keep in mind that Newsom, last year, there was a statewide ballot measure, and Newsom stood with the big landlords, and he killed rent control at the county and city levels throughout the entire state of California.
I can't stand, I'm
right, and keep in mind that Newsom, last year, there was a statewide ballot measure, and Newsom stood with the big landlords, and he killed rent control at the county and city levels throughout the entire state of California.
I can't.
So there you go. There's a little bit of introduction. Joel Ventresca. I just took some notes with the first part of the interview. The interview's about, it's over an hour long. So I'm going to take some more notes, and I'm going to, really, basically I've been doing the platforms. I think that in the elections, my ideal election is that we're all talking about the ideas. We're looking at the planks of their platforms, and we're saying we're not looking at the person, because clearly if you have money, then you can get in front of the people, and then you can put your message out there. But if you don't have money, if you're David Moore, the Trotsky, well, then you have to fight to get your damn, perspective out there, and by the time you get your perspective. So I like the idea of here's the candidates, make your best, compare and contrast the planks of their platform. Don't just go along with the money. Don't just go along with what everybody else seems to be saying. Make your own choices. So, yeah, I like that. And I think if I was in California, I probably would vote for Joel Ventresca over David Moore and Mike Loeb's, even though I liked both, David Moore's homelessness plan and Mike Loeb's. He's got a ton of progressive planks that I really like, too. But Joel Ventresca, he's a super-duper progressive, and he's got government experience. Pro-net neutrality, pro-high-speed rail, anti-crime, pro-public finance elections, pro-instant runoff voting, no to school choice, pro-Finland model for education, pro-universal education, college, technical, vocational, everything from the cradle to the grave. You're going to get your health care. If you're a Californian, you're going to get your education and your health care paid for under a Ventresca administration. Not really going to get into a jobs program or a constitutional convention. Pilot program for a UBI. Probably won't release any auditors. He's going to ban lobbyists. He's going to ban private money in all the elections, local, state, and federal. He's going to end the war on drugs. He's got a small business program. So there you go. There you go. I think that's a pretty decent, good beginning overview for Joel Ventresca. Joel Ventresca. He's a Bernie-crat. He's a Bernie-crat, California. You got to vote for him or David Moore, the Trotsky, or, you know, Michael Loebs. Those are the only three I see or that are worthy of even voting for, or the top three, at least. I'm sure, hey, California, who are your top three? No, just the platforms. Just based on the platforms, who are your top three candidates? You think anybody in California